So the next part in our XR750 build is what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be checking the squish on our piston. So the XR750 uses a Hemi style piston with great big cutouts in it for the valves, valve reliefs. And we want to get this piston in as tight to the cylinder head as we can. We want to get it right in around 30 thou, not more than 40 thou. So we want it pretty tight. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use some 60 thou solder and a little bit of modeling clay. We've got some soft modeling clay, and we're going to need our micrometer to measure it. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to build it. So I'm looking at the crown of the piston here. It's now in the cylinder, and what we're doing here is we've made little, sort of like little hockey sticks with our solder. And I know from experience that it's always right in here that's the tightest area. But just for fun, I've put a little bit of modeling clay on top in strategic areas, just to make sure that I don't have a little thin spot or a spot where there's not enough clearance there. So what I'm doing here is each side of the piston, I put one of these little pieces of solder, and I'm just putting it in place there. And then when I turn the motor over a few times, it's going to squeeze it down, and then I'll be able to measure the solder. And the last thing I did was I take some of my engine oil and I put it on the crown or on the dome of the piston, just to keep the modeling clay from sticking in there. We want it to stick to the piston. So now we're just torquing the cylinder down. Get it to the recommended spec from the book. And now we're ready to turn the motor over. So now we're turning the motor over a couple of times, 2 times. And we're just making sure that the rear rod doesn't get tagged. So we've got our little, we took off our little piece of solder off of this side here, and we just go and we measure it, and it shows at 32 thou, which is perfect. We'll double check on the other side. We are at 33 thou. So that is where we want it to be. That's really close to the 30 thou, which is sort of our sort of target, I guess. There's no other areas on here where we're even getting close. It never even touched on these little balls of plasticine, so we'll clean all that off. And all that we're really learning here is that now we don't have to machine anything off of the bottom of our cylinder, and we're in the spec range, so we don't have to add any more shims, and we're good to go on this cylinder. We did the same thing on the other cylinder.